Okay, this is Mark meets Lloyd Salmons, founder of Outside Line. Hi Lloyd.
Hello.
Can you give us a quick summary of your career?
My career got a checkered past, really. So myself and a guy who founded the company, and we seem to be joined at the hip. So I'll describe us as a we. So we came out of the music industry. So literally started pretty much as a T-boy, got into the marketing department. The internet arrived one day. Prior to that, there were green screens. One day, a colour screen arrived, and I think they looked around and found the two youngest guys and kind of asked us to get on with it. And sort of the rest is history. So we built the first ever band website for Blur, did campaigns for Radiohead, did stuff with Paul McCartney. So lots of fun. We left there, started our own agency, this agency, which has now been going 11 years. And really did it just because we wanted to work with bands and artists 365 days a year, rather than in kind of marketing cycles of boom bust. When the album was out and finished, the sort of the record company didn't really need to continue talking to fans until the next time an album was out. So we didn't believe that the internet or people work that way. We believe that they have a genuine passion for that band 365 days a year. So the company was sort of really based on that principle, that building a community around a passion point. And while today we work predominantly with brands, that same ethos kind of still stands really. It's about a shared passion, something that can exist between both the brand and the consumer that there's a shared interest in, and building a community around that.
How did you know you were capable of running a business?
I didn't. We didn't. I sort of left at the time. People that understood new media were in very, very short demand. They're still in short demand today, but in particularly short demand. Had a good job working in music. It was great fun. Literally, I can remember the day I left thinking, "Oh my God, what have I done?"
How old were you?
I can't remember. 23, 24, something like that.
Young.
So relatively young, yeah. And was probably at the time, getting compared to my friends, doing quite well, sort of thing. So to jump into something where there was no security was a sort of a big thing, really. But I think maybe the folly of youth, you sort of just did it anyway. So if you asked me to do the same thing now, maybe I wouldn't.
Now you've got responsibilities.
Yeah, children, things to pay for, yeah. But it was the best thing we ever did, So it was great times at EMI, but running your own business and having the best thing about this is that you've got the freedom to think you want to do something and do it, and that's the best thing.
There's a lot of guys that have obviously graduated a few years ago, got some commercial maturity and experience now, who are probably thinking about doing their own thing. They're hungry enough to do their own thing, and they possibly don't believe in a lot of what their management believes in. What advice would you give to people that are looking to kind of start their own agency?
I think if you want to do it, if you're passionate about it, yeah, definitely go and do it. And it's really, it's a part luck, being brutally honest. And it's lots of parts effort and enthusiasm. And I think there is no easy ride. I've known little small startups do phenomenally well overnight, with no real experience. I've known people that have got bags and bags and bags of experience, and you would think the black book, the perfect black book, yet they've started businesses and it's not been easy. So there's no hard and fast formula, but most of it's about hard graft, making good decisions, making simple decisions, acting on your instincts. And a little bit of luck,
How much? I guess there's a perception that you need some money behind you to set up a business as well. What's the best way to get started?
Yeah, we didn't have a penny, if I'm honest. We literally didn't have a penny. And we started small. And I think that's managing your costs is the absolute critical thing to running a business. You know, we built the business on actually we started the business in 2000 when the internet bubble first burst. You know, so what we did was, you know, when we had work, we hired people. You know, it's a very basic fundamental principle.
On a freelance basis or a permanent basis?
Permanent basis predominantly. We've always found working with people that believe in the culture is a much more effective way of working. And that's not to say freelance is bad. You can bring freelance people in for specific skills that, you know, that you might not need every day, but people that are 100% sort of behind the company and buy into the company and the company culture are definitely the way to go, because you build that camaraderie and you know you work hard together and you play hard together.
Do people need family support behind them when they're setting up a business, or if they believe they can do it, they should just go ahead and do it?
I think if you believe in it, you can do it, you know, and it's, of course, having a little bit of money is a good thing, but actually sometimes, you know, if you've got a huge pot of money, sometimes that's also in a weird way a negative, because you kind of rely on that. You know, when you're young and you're hungry and you want it, you kind of, you know, you make sure that it happens, sort of thing. So, you know, there's all sorts of different ways of getting involved in the business, but the core of it in my mind is, you know, having a real passion for what you do, because that comes through when you're talking to clients. That absolutely comes through. In terms of the structural stuff, you know, make sure that you manage your costs and keep an eye on your costs, because that's cash flow is where, you know, lots of good businesses have failed, even though they're great creatively or whatever. You know, the structural side of managing their cash flow has not been so good, and that's been their downfall, which is no detriment to them as, you know, as business people, but it's just a skill that you kind of have to pick up on and learn pretty quickly.
And do you feel that the industry needs another agency? And if so, do they need to come with something different to the table, or can there be space? Is there space for another agency to do the same thing?
There's always space. Just don't pitch against us. Well, actually, if you're rubbish, pitch against us. If you're good, don't pitch against us. There's always space, and it's a good thing, because actually that new blood, new thinking, new, you know, whatever drives the rest of us, you know, and it's, you know, that's, you know, we were probably still are, because we're, you know, sort of small to medium sized company, still probably one of those upstarts, you know, but actually, you know, there are other people that come through, and, you know, smaller places that drive us and that inspire us. So I think it's, you know, you should never really be scared of competition. I think it's a good, healthy thing.
And how do you feel about age in this industry? Because obviously digital is a fairly new, it's not fairly new, it's a newer platform compared to other medias, and obviously being a founder of an agency at 23, 24,
yeah.
Being client facing, were you taken seriously?
Yeah, I don't think, you know, maybe I was lucky in that respect, because actually digital was full of younger people at that time. I think, you know, there is no, we've got a mix of people, and I think when we started out, we sort of believed that everyone's got to be young, and, you know, it's actually our youth. How can someone a bit older really understand what we're doing? But actually, you know, the more you grow, or maybe the older you get, you realise that even if someone, you know, that strategic understanding that perhaps someone that's been in the business for years is invaluable. And actually, it's about getting the marriage. You know, it's a bit like a football team. The 11 best players aren't the best team. Actually, you know, getting the 11 players that all play together and work as a team and that have different skills and different strengths is the way that you kind of create that perfect mix. So I don't think age should be an issue, whether you're old, young, or indifferent. You know, I think if you're good, that's what matters. You know, and I think depth of knowledge and genuine passion are what clients buy.
How can you tell if someone's good at an interview process?
You tend to, well, you know, you get a few wrong, but you tend to know pretty quickly. And again, I sort of, you know, it's not necessarily whether you're good or bad, it's whether you're right for the company. You know, I've seen plenty of good people that aren't quite the right culture for our company. So, you know, it's like clients hiring agencies, you know, a lot of it comes down to personalities. So, you know, if there's a connection between you and the person, then, you know, that's a great start. And then it's about, you know, the preparation and making sure that you've got depth of knowledge about what the business does and what is, where you want to fit within it, and just being prepared and being able to answer questions honestly, openly, and eloquently. If you're not prepared, you won't be able to do that.
How would you describe the culture here?
So I would describe it as fun, passionate. I keep saying the word passionate, but everybody here loves what they do. Hard working, but not to the point of being burnt out or crazy. We'd like to make sure that people go home at a reasonable hour. Of course there's projects that sometimes everyone has to pitch in, but you've got to have a balance between your working life and your home life. So it's about getting that balance right, and we think we have that. People do work hard, but we also have a lot of fun together. We drink a lot together, and if you don't enjoy going to work, then you're in trouble. That's you spend so much of your life working. You need to enjoy what you do. And we think we've got an environment where people do that.
Which agencies do you look up to?
All sorts of different agencies for all sorts of different reasons. So there are people like there's an agency in New York called Breakfast, and I really love their stuff because it's about kind of connecting the digital and physical worlds, and that's something that we as an agency, but also me personally, have a real passion for. But then there are other great big creative agencies that are great at certain things, but for me, the agencies I respect most are the agencies that do great work for their clients, not necessarily that do great work for themselves, because I think that's important. And you get some agencies that you might think what their output is a bit more middle of the road, but actually it's really right and relevant for the audience that they're talking to, and I think that's where they're the type of agencies that you should respect, the ones that are brave enough to do absolutely what's right for their client and not what makes them famous.
And when you're looking for a portfolio of someone that comes from an agency like that, where it's the work, I guess, could be considered as middle of the road, but it's right for its audience, can you tell that, or would you dismiss someone if the work does look middle of the road?
Yeah. If you've got any inkling of what a brand is about, you can tell whether the work is relevant to the audience straight away. Without
the explanation of that person telling you actually why it ended up. Right.
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely. And that's interesting. So one of the things that I like to see, so when I get CVs, it's actually I'm of course interested in what's on the paper, but actually if there's a link to a portfolio that shows work, even if you're not a designer, even if you're an account manager, if there's a thing that I've worked on this and this, that to me is 10 times more important than the words that are written on it.
Is that because you come from more of a visual background?
Maybe. But you just get, I don't know, you get if you look at an account manager and they write a blog, you just get a sense of what they're about very quickly, and you kind of know it sort of almost negates that first meeting, the meet and greet type thing, to find out if there would be a connection, because you can understand what people are about.
I noticed that you've got a degree in business.
Yep.
How important is a degree, do you think, firstly in digital or in an industry that we work in?
I think education is incredibly important, and I think being bright is incredibly important. But that doesn't mean that people with degrees are get a big tick, and people without a degree don't. The experience of life is also very important. I think for me what's important is being able to think and to be able to articulate your thinking. And you don't necessarily have to have a degree to do that, or you don't have to have a degree to do that. So that's much more important to me than going through a degree process.
So to work here at Outside Line, you don't need to have a degree necessarily?
No, you got to be good. You got to be bright. You got to be intelligent, and that's what's important. Do
you feel it's more important when you're hiring account managers, project managers, producers, strategists, real thinkers? Is it more important that they have a better education than creators or developers or other people? Or do they get treated the same way?
I think actually, we treat everybody the same. Arguably, if you've been through a higher education process, that teaches you that gives you the ability to kind of go away and think on your own, do on your own, because it's less structured from a school process, which is, you know, go away, do this, write a report on that. You know, the higher education process teaches you about sort of managing your own time, not spending too much of it in the pub drinking, you know. So, of course, there are advantages, of course, but what I'm saying is it's not, you know, for us personally. And I think in life it shouldn't be well, you know, because I've got a degree I'm better than person X who hasn't.
What's the future of digital?
Jesus Christ, that's a question. So the future of digital is integration, and by that I mean into everyday life. You know, going back to the company I talked about, you know, digital doesn't sit here and something else sits there. You know, we're seeing more and more digital being part of our everyday lives, whether it's watching TV and being on your iPad or your phone, or, you know, it's an alarm clock with a, you know, a Twitter feed, or it's a car that's kind of feeding back information into you know, how you drive and how you can be more cost effective on your fuel consumption. It's just, you know, it's not a siloed thing. It's just integration into our everyday lives as a very baseline, and, you know, where you don't even call it digital anymore.
And the future of social?
Same thing, you know. I think it's an interesting, you know, a hugely interesting area. So we have taken this phenomenon has kind of arrived, which really has been there forever. You know, it's just that technology has sort of accelerated or changed the way in which we are engaging, and really, I don't think it's replaced anything. It's just augmented what we're doing, and it's a replication of, you know, our everyday lives. It's just that now it's not just with the people that we're close to geographically. Actually, we can have that same relationship with people that, you know, might have moved abroad, or that are kind of, you know, we haven't seen for a while. So I just think we're going to see more and more social integration into everything we do, and how we watch TV, you know, how our phone works, how everything works.
In an agency, what's the best way of staying on top of that? Because a lot of agencies create labs or R&D departments to, I guess, lead the way and not piggyback on what other people are doing. So how do you guys stay on top of the next thing?
So I would counter that. I don't think agencies genuinely do lead the way. I think, you know, so startups lead the way. You know, it wasn't an agency that started Twitter. You know, so what agencies do really well is they capitalise on that. So for me, it's about how you can, you know, be aware of what's going on early. You know, and trial that and start to think about that. And one of the things that we are quite fortunate with is our sort of music and entertainment heritage. You know, entertainment industry is very quick to jump on stuff, and they sort of, you know, they will take bigger risks earlier on.
Is that because they understand the platforms better than other sectors?
I think it's because they have a tighter budget, and actually that, you know, the opportunity to do something quick and early gives them an advantage over perhaps competitors. Whereas with brands, that, you know, they tend to want to have a little bit more proof before they jump in, and I think that's also changing a little bit. You know, you see brands now starting to adopt technology quite early, but it's, you know, for us, we still have that little bit of entertainment business that we work on, and that's kind of where we get to do a lot of R&D and try stuff out.
Fine, let's move on to a quick fire round. FWA or NMA?
Oh God, I would say FWA.
Can line or D&AD pencil?
Both.
Art directors or copywriters?
Both. You can't sit. These are terrible questions.
You've got to commit to yourself. Yeah. Sit on the fence.
Copywriters.
Apple or Android?
Oh, Apple. Easy.
Degree or no degree?
Degree.
Retained work or pitch work?
Retained.
Web or mobile?
Ooh, probably mobile.
Independent agencies or networked agencies?
Independent, I have to say that.
Outsourced production or on-site production?
Yeah, on-site.
And lastly, twist or stick?
Twist.
Thank you.